Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome into episode 57 of Kayfabe Kouncil, the show where we review and critique news topics and segments in the world of professional wrestling. My name is Pretty Tony, and alongside me, as always, is the good brother TF Joker. Joker, what's crack, man? What's going on?
Oh, PT, just absolutely nothing. Sweating it as per usual. We went over it last week. I won't complain this week. But I'm also looking forward to just getting my beard trimmed this week. I'm not gonna lie. I kinda need it. It's getting unruly. It's just too unruly and I can't be dealing with it anymore.
I double checked the weather yesterday for me. I did a little errand in the morning. It was about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and just got over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So we are certainly in the dog days of summer, my friend. The solstice was a couple of days ago, so we are full-fledged ready to go. And on that note, for
Mm,
sure, I gave myself a little haircut, a little trim ski. So I feel you, man. When you want to
yeah.
give yourself a fresh cut and some clean looking, especially in the hotter days, I feel you, man.
Yeah. I just got really lazy because it was so warm. So I've let my hair grow a little bit, but it doesn't mean that the bald patch kind of grew. So I regret my life choices and it's too long for me to do anything. So yeah, I'll go and get it all cut back and I'll get myself tidied up. But yeah, it's only getting about half eight now, time recording for myself, and it's 21 degrees C, which isn't terrible. It is cooler now. It was 26.7 or something earlier on. Uh, so yeah, it's starting to peter off as we sort of crawl into the nighttime. Hopefully that'll drop by another 10 degrees though. I sweating.
Yeah, certainly. As a fellow bald brother, I know I gotta try to keep cool and stay fresh as well. But yeah, the hot days of summer are upon us for sure. And much like some of the topics today, the world of wrestling is heating up as well as we prepare for Forbidden Door this weekend. We've got Money in the Bank coming up as well. So a lot of things, a lot of moving parts, a lot of feuds heating up, stories getting the temperature risen, things boiling over. So insert more hot temperature things and memes as well as iconography. So we'll figure it out. But the notion is it's hot and things are getting hot and they're heating up. So
Mm.
hopefully you can stay cool and enjoy yourself. So make sure, like we said last week, drink some water. Like on cue, Joker's drinking some water, staying cool. There we are. And we'll get into the show proper. As a reminder, you can find us in video form at youtube.com/kayfabe council and in audio form wherever you get your podcasts from. On this week's episode, we look at Seth Rollins and Finn Balor feud heating up. Tommaso Ciampa returns. Logan Paul added to the Money in the Bank ladder match. And with Forbidden Door this weekend, we discuss which matches we are looking forward to most. But coming up first, Seth Rollins and Finn Balor feud heating up. Hot dang. So the previous week we saw Finn make that challenge and Seth accepted. So we have that scheduled match at the Money in the Bank. But this past week, ooh boy, coming out for the heat is boiling over. On Monday Night Raw, we open up with Seth Rollins making his entrance for his WWE World Heavyweight Championship Open Challenge. He soaks in the crowd, singing his song when Finn Balor attacks him from behind and beats him down. They brawl around ringside, Finn laying punches in on the announce desk and throwing Seth into the ring post. More mounted punches and stomps. Referee Chad Patton fails to break it up, and road agents Ken Doane, Jason Jordan, and Adam Pearce come in with a bundle of referees to pull them apart. Balor ends up breaking away, but he steps up for a coup de grace off the steel steps and hits another and hits another. We then go backstage where Seth Rollins is looking for Finn Balor, only to get blindsided and beat down by the Prince once again, while road agents circle looking for an opening to pull Finn away. Finn says he's been waiting 7 years for this, and the title will be his at Money in the Bank. Later on in the night, Seth Rollins appears from The hospital. Seth says they took him out of the arena to x-ray his ribs, but he doesn't stop and he doesn't make excuses. So he'll be at NXT the next night to defend his title against Braun Breaker. And as for Finn Balor, there's the guy that beat him 7 years ago. Money in the Bank can't come soon enough. The following night on NXT, Seth is set to defend his title against Braun Breaker, but the finish of the match sees Seth block a spear attempt with a knee into a pedigree for a 2 count. Braun comes back with a spear for a close 2 count on Seth, but Braun climbs up the ropes for a top rope nothing, and Seth hits him with a super kick into a curb stomp, and Seth Rollins wins by pinfall to retain the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Post-match, Seth stands tall on the ramp with the title when Finn Balor, yet again, attacks him from behind and beats him down, this time getting more vicious as Finn hits Seth with some chair shots. Finn ultimately gets driven away by NXT champion Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. So Joker, Seth wanted the old Finn back, the Finn that beat him 7 years ago, the Prince, if you will. Well, Seth certainly got what he asked for.
He definitely did. Ever since we got the Prince back that fateful night when he Pele kicked, well, kind of just attempted a scorpion kick on Johnny Gargs and Tommaso Ciampa whenever they were going up against the UE. I think it was them anyway. Like the return of the Prince, this heel Balor, I just really liked it. I don't mind if you have a character who's so overlooked and is aware that they become overlooked that they just kind of want to get to the point where I'm frustrated, want to make you watch. I like that sort of angsty sort of heel turn. Sometimes it can lead them back into face, and that's fine. But him staying in this heel turn and then getting more vicious, more violent as the weeks have went on recently, I really enjoyed it. I thought that was pretty good. I don't need to see babyface Finn Balor. We've seen enough of that, and there's plenty of time for that. I'm hoping, everybody's staying healthy, touch wood, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, I'm just super excited that we actually get to have decent matches for a title, like an actual title. I still feel like this title isn't huge. Like it doesn't have that gravitas for me. Because it being the new heavyweight title. Also the fact that it was defended on NXT, not taking anything away from NXT, but I don't watch NXT. So I understand why they're doing it. Don't need to come at me as to why they're doing it. I don't care. It's just kind of like I love what Seth is doing, but on that little part just kind of bothered me a wee bit. But this match at Money in the Bank should be a lot of fun. I hope they run back some spots from the original. Well, mostly just one spot from the original that I think we all kind of want to see actually, the buckle bomb put onto Finn, and that would just be fun. I think, hopefully he doesn't pop his shoulder again, but it would just be a nice callback. We've already done it with Damien. Let's do it with the man himself. And I just don't think that this is going to be a stinker of a match. It's one of the ones that I'm looking forward to catching up on.
Oh, 100% agreed. There are a couple points from your section here. The notion of you may not be gravitas towards the World Heavyweight Championship because it's a bit of a newer title. To be fair, that's a fair observation. I think we're about a month, maybe a month and change into the title's history. But I think the notion of Seth being a fighting champion, which is what he wanted to do, I think Triple H, when he announced it, that's what their sort of goal was. Obviously, contrasted with the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship that's held by Roman Reigns. Because, I mean, at this point, we had the last title defense was at WrestleMania. We may or may not have had a random house show title defense against Rey Mysterio. We do not have a title defense in the upcoming future, so obviously you're having that. But circle back real quick. Having Seth having multiple defenses, open challenge, being that pseudo traveling champion, I'm going to take on all comers. I'm going to go to where the challenges are. I think is helping to that. And like we've mentioned in numerous episodes, that Seth is a strong work rate guy. He can have matches with just a lot of different people and make them engaging. So hopefully that trend continues as well. And honestly, like putting in work as opposed to a guy in Roman who's just not on TV as much, or every other week or maybe every 2 weeks he shows up for a town hall segment and just gets days as champion. So obviously we're going different routes with these championship belts.
I mean, I don't disagree. Like, I can't disagree. Like, what you said is 100% true with them having the fighting champion. That's what I want. I'm never going to complain about him being a fighting champion. What I am sort of saying is that it's not prestigious yet. You know, I get we're building that. It can't be. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. I don't want anybody thinking that I'm like, oh, it's not immediately relevant. You know, technically it's not immediately relevant. He's having to build that relevancy, and that's why I said whenever we were talking about who should be the champion, Seth freaking Rollins, he will make this relevant. You need big time matches to make this relevant. Not the open challenges, not the hokey matches on NXT. You know, those aren't making it relevant. I'm sorry, they're not for me. They're not the ones that I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. That you're defending against Braun Breaker. Who he right now in NXT? He isn't even the champion, so it's kind of one of those. Um, I like Braun Breaker, by the way. I think he's going to whenever he's called up, you know, etc. Different story, different time. But Seth is going to make this belt hugely relevant, even though I'm pulling for Finn on this match, and I really want him to win, and I would love to see him hold this belt. I'm really pulling for him, and I really want to see that happen, even though I don't think it's time. You know, wishful thinking and all that. But this is the kind of match that you look at and you go, that's one of the big ones that Seth should be having. There are other big ticket players that Seth will have title defenses against, but those long form stories need to play out. And then yes, we will have that relevant title, and then I will be happy with how the title has been built. And then we can move it on to the next person for them to continue on with the legacy. That's how it should be sort of seen. But yeah, I'm just sort of a wee bit cautiously optimistic. Let's call it that.
I'll agree with you for sure. The foundation of itself is being built with some of these open challenges early on. I'm in agreement when we have big matches at a super show or a pay-per-view against a high-profile opponent in which the story's built and you really bought into it. I feel like, yes, 6 months, maybe a year, 2 years down the road, will feel like, okay, like I'm behind this because of the work that people have put into said title. I feel like it's going to be strong. And speaking of that match against Finn, I mean, you talk about that Prince, that heel character, ever since turning on Taguchi 2014, excuse me, 2014, and starting that Bullet Club is really when the Prince, the Fergal Devitt himself, man, just really started to get that swing of momentum and just really go hard. Yeah, it was 2013 because the 1 year anniversary was his last match in New Japan against Taguchi, and then he went to NXT in 2014. So had to remember my math. But interestingly enough, when he got to NXT from 2014 all the way through until he eventually went back to NXT, he had a sort of heel, excuse me, he ended up having a face character. So the WWE up until that point really didn't see that crazy menace that was the Prince, or that type of Prince Devitt, Fergal Devitt situation. So we're getting a little bit of shades of it now, of course, obviously. And I feel like it's a little bit much more engaging than the sort of not exactly happy-go-lucky Finn Balor that we were getting kind of before, or that kind of thing, that little bit of mysterious edge or that kind of darkness, or he has like really good like kind of bad guy scowl when he's trying to cut those promos and things of such. So I feel the Finn Balor heel, that prince, that brooding kind of element, definitely is much more engaging as a character and as opponent. I'm not opposed to a face Finn Balor, because I really enjoy that man's work. But the contrast up against Seth being the sort of, I guess for lack of he's babyface at this point, yeah, makes for an intriguing, strong matchup. And speaking of which, I just pulled a little bit of their history to take a look at it. They've had 8 televised singles matches. They've had quite a lot of single matches on house shows and multitude of multi-man matches. But in 8 televised singles matches, Seth is up 6-2 over Finn, with the first one obviously having the Universal Championship on the line at SummerSlam 2016, and the most recent being May 8th, 2023 on Raw in the finals for the World Heavyweight Championship. So there's been some US title matches, some IC title matches, a lot of, interestingly enough, championship matches between these two men, but ultimately on televised matches in singles, 6-2 to Seth's side. So it holds the prominence in Seth's favor, but into the 9th singles match, televised, Finn's looking frustrated. He's looking for a measure of revenge. Do we see Finn ultimately pulling out the win at Money in the Bank, or is it too early for Seth to lose the title?
Too early. I'm pulling for Finn, don't get me wrong. Something in me just says it's too early. What with us talking not so long ago about WWE wanting to quote unquote modernize their title reigns to be longer. We're less likely to see the couple of months champion. We'd probably see 6 to 8 month reigns at the very least. So this having a 1 month, statistically, just based off of that information, it's a no, and it's Seth retaining. But it's not going to stop me pulling for Finn.
I'm actually going to agree with you a lot. I really like me some Finn as a face, as a heel. Nothing against Seth. I think he's phenomenal as
Love
well.
Seth. Yeah.
I just like me some Finn Balor, some Fergal Devitt, some Prince. But I am in agreement that this is not going to be a TNT championship situation.
Yeah. Part of it's a measure of I really wanted Seth to hold that belt, the big red belt in the first place. Not Seth the Finn. I wanted him to hold that belt, and he got screwed out of it because of the shoulder. So part of it's like that. Yeah, do not turn this into WWE's version of the TNT title. I've already been seeing tweets about Wardlow and how they're burying him and how his career is over and all this nonsense. And I'm like, you see, this is what happens when you don't know how to book titles. I sort of trust WWE not to mess this one up. But at the same time, I'm still pulling for Finn. I'm not, no, I'm still pulling for Finn.
It always makes me think of that one. It's Dynamite or Rampage post match after a squash match. Wardlow's been hearing a lot of people talk on the internet. I'm like, Wardlow, no, you're awesome, but no, don't just slag on the people on the internet.
Don't validate the internet, dude. That's us. That's what we have to do.
But I'm in agreement. You absolutely hit on the head. The notion of modern titles or modern title reigns having a strong representation, and being that the Seth is the first title holder. Yeah, 6-8 months, maybe close to a year, I feel like is a fair play for the first title holder. And then we can kind of see who takes it off of him after that. But yeah, I think we're both in agreement. We're both pulling for the man Finn, but we feel like Seth is going to ultimately win that match, so fair play. All right, so those were our thoughts on the Seth Rollins and Finn Balor feud heating up. Let us know down in the comment section below on YouTube, or hit us up on Twitter or Instagram. Let us know what your thoughts are on the upcoming match between Seth and Finn and who you think is going to win. Let us know. All right, next topic here. Tommaso Ciampa returns to WWE. On Raw, The Miz is upset that there is no open challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship as Seth was taken out. The Miz issues his own open challenge, answered by the returning Tommaso Ciampa, looking in phenomenal shape. Ciampa coming out hot out of the gates, taking it to Miz, but the finish of the match sees Miz go up to the top rope, double axe handle, but is countered with a stiff knee. Ciampa picks Miz up, double underhooks, hits the fairy tale ending, and Tommaso Ciampa wins his return match. So Ciampa is just looking great. Joker, I gotta see, it's good to see Ciampa back.
Oh, 100%. We had that sort of momentum for Ciampa whenever he was with Miz those many moons ago. And I liked to see the promos he was cutting and the stuff that he was doing outside the ring was really sharpening up his character. It was gaining him momentum, and then the Tommy Champs thing happened where he has to go out for X amount of months with an injury. It's just really a shame that we kind of had to mothball him for that length of period of time. Obviously, the health of the wrestler is paramount. So glad he got everything sorted, and we're back to this position of Tommy Champs coming to the ring and just looking absolutely amazing. I cannot wait for whenever we have the Black Heart, because if we don't get the Black Heart, like I need him to covet a title like he coveted Goldie. That was some of my favorite Tommaso Ciampa stuff. Just seeing him go absolutely psycho with Goldie, loved the stuff, and I just really need that on the main roster. So having him go after the Miz, for something so mundane as not even a single tweet, kind of put me on the defensive as to what we're going to do with Mr. Tommy Champs.
Was that the reasoning that they gave on commentary? Like,
That's the
Ciampa was
reasoning.
upset that maybe the Miz didn't reach out while he was injured. Is that what
It's
we're going
not
with?
so much commentary, it's literally what Tommaso Ciampa says while he's beating the Miz at the desk, and the commentary team echoes that. And this is just before, Tommaso gives the wee bit of the DIY sort of claps and pat in the back. And it's like, it's literally what comes out of his mouth. If you listen carefully, you can see not even a single text. And I'm like, oh no, please don't. So yeah, I don't know. A wee bit pensive on this return, as to where we're going. Hopefully he doesn't languish with the Miz for too long, even though I do think the Miz is amazing and he'll help out Tommaso get back on his feet in no time. I just hope they don't stretch this out for too long.
Okay, fair play. I didn't quite catch that maybe during that portion of the segment, but yeah, Tommaso Ciampa, I mean, his work in NXT has been extensive as well, and partnering with Johnny, being in the DIY, and they won championships, and he's always been in phenomenal shape. Then they transitioned to having that feud. Unfortunately, this is maybe the second, possibly the third time that he's been away for just a bit of time with an injury. I know he's had some neck injuries. He missed some time with that. If I'm not mistaken, maybe this was a leg or a knee injury this time. But man, he's been able to come back, and once, like you said, always in just ridiculous phenomenal shape. So he puts the work in. We got a small taste, obviously, on Raw here with returning to face The Miz. he can go in the ring. He's into his training and his cardio and everything like that. So decent character work. You mentioned the Goldie portion when he's just overtly coveting the championship, the almost like the Gollum-esque type of Schmeagol deal going on. So a little bit of that character work is always phenomenal. And at least with the Miz is a relatively safe worker, so you can have, for a first match back on television, you can definitely rock that out. I'll be fair play to say almost let's not have it go like Dexter Loomis Miz like lengths. Like we kind of got the notion maybe like the first month, and the subsequent 2.5 months that they kept that going maybe didn't need. But I'll say if we have maybe a match or two more and then maybe see where he goes, I wouldn't be mad at that. So you're right.
I don't think you're wrong. I just don't want them to just overstay their welcome with this. But I'm definitely happy to see Tommaso back healthy and ready to go.
Yeah. And speaking of trying to figure out an angle in which to have a match, if it's one of those you didn't call me, you didn't text me, you didn't tweet, we've started matches on way less, makes me instantly think of Jericho backstage spilt coffee on Kane, and then they started a feud for like months. So it is what it is. You make it work in kayfabe, you figure it out. Sometimes it's just randomly booked a match, or you have let's just call a reason, however stupid it is to have a match, but
I don't like your face.
there you go.
And then you fight somebody else, and that's because they were upset that didn't like the other person's face.
There it is. At least we got the match, and like I said, great to see him back and looking strong and look solid in his return match. But I have a little bit of a backstage ska here. So actually, according to a report from Fightful Select, the original plan was to have Ciampa answer Rollins' open challenge, with the match scheduled to receive a lot of television time and a non-finish. Those plans were changed several times over the weekend, including a few hours before Raw went live. Title match was internally listed as TBA versus Seth Rollins. Vince McMahon is reportedly responsible for the change. Those originally planned for the match wished for things to go as planned, and people backstage were, quote, clearly frustrated when the plans were changed. So, to be fair, not sure how I would have felt. We would have gotten an absolutely stellar match between Seth and Ciampa. I have no doubts about that. But there would have been the possibility of a non-finish, so at the end of the day, I'm glad Ciampa got a win in his return regardless. Joker, am I alone in this, or would have been happy with a solid match but just a sort of screwy finish?
So I don't like screwy finishes, especially when we're trying to build up championships. I do want to sort of get that caveat out of the way. If done correctly, though, this would have been the better way to get Miz versus Ciampa, in my opinion. Considering I'm not a fan of I didn't even get a single text off you for 8 months. Way, I'm an old man that don't really care for the kids and their texting and they're forgetting, ghosting and all this here. It's just absolute nonsense and it's not a storyline. I am pretty sure I heard before that Vince doesn't like Tommaso Ciampa based on his size. So I don't think this is anything out of Vince's wheelhouse. Uh, he's just doing it because he doesn't like Tommaso Ciampa. We had a blinder of a match between Ciampa and Seth not too long ago for the US title, I believe. So even at that, it was just one of those that those two guys, Seth versus Ciampa, would have been a solid match. Former NXT champion versus Seth Rollins, the current new heavyweight champion. Like, come on, how is that not a good match compared to the what was it, sub 5 minute Miz versus Ciampa waffle stomp? Yes, I said waffle stomp just because. And it's one of those that I look at and go, I really would have liked the non-finish because it would have been Miz coming down to the ring, being Miz, being entitled, feeling snubbed because he came down to the ring at the start of Raw saying, I was going to take on that challenge, blah, 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 blah. perfectly within Miz's wheelhouse, would have looked even better if it had been a case of he came down to the ring, clearly frustrated, cost Tommaso Ciampa the match, and then, that was their actual reason for feuding. It makes more sense to me that way. And then you have given us a solid match. You've given us that Seth match. You've shown us that Tommy can go, and we get a new feud out of it, which makes more sense. Stability. It makes I don't know. Old man Vince shakes his fist at clouds and goes, "I do not like your booking, so I'ma change it for the next 8 hours, right up until we go live." It's something I've seen. Some people are okay with the changes because they benefit them. Some people don't like the changes because they don't. So let's not go back to what we were doing, please, Vince. You've gotten lucky with some stuff, but the booking of the women's division definitely isn't one of them.
I like that Tommy Champs got a strong showing and a win in his debut. Obviously, off to a good start. So, in the grand scheme of things, definitely is good. Although the temptation, the dangling of the carrot of a potential Seth and Tommy Champs match, I would have loved to seen. I would have been perplexed maybe at a non-finish. I wouldn't want Seth to lose, but I also wouldn't want Tommaso Ciampa to lose in his return. So I
Mhm.
could see a little bit of conundrum. Fair play. So ultimately, we got what we got. So to be fair, let's kind of see how it goes from here. But the overall arching thing, Tommaso Ciampa's back, looking in great shape, looking healthy. Let's see if we can kind of keep him on the road, keep him situated, keep him moving forward for sure.
100%.
And then one last little final beat here. In that same Fightful Select report, there was a plan internally to reunite Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. Although Gargano was backstage, WWE didn't include him in the plans for the show. So Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano famously together as DIY. They're a solid team, great chemistry in the ring, they're great friends in real life. Joker, is a DIY reunion something you'd be interested in? Or maybe wait on that possibly and let Tommaso have a little bit of a singles run?
If it gives us the ability to use Gargano more, then I'm okay with it. I don't hate it or love it strongly in either direction. Um, but with the reformation in sightseeing only of the way, and then just not using them, it's a wee bit awkward for me to say that I want Johnny Gargano to be used when he has a stable there that was a proven commodity in NXT at the time. Some people liked it, some people didn't. I was ambivalent towards that one as well. And it's now kind of just not being used, has been shelved. Possibly a Vince thing, possibly just lack of booking by Papa H, whatever it is, not liking that. If we get DIY where we can use both of them, then I'm okay with that. I There are three other individuals in the way that I really want to see that we're not using as well. So yeah, like if we can just use these people, don't forget you have them. Like you've got some contenders in there for mid card and top titles for the women. Like yeah, it's just so as far as DIY are concerned, though, some of the tag teams, I definitely want them to be bolstered up. We can't sit on this double champ thing for too much longer. I don't think end of the year we'll probably see new champs, and we'll see them split or new tags, new tag titles either way. Um, and with the introduction of Pretty Deadly and being super heel team and them getting a big push at the minute, I would like to see Raw have a reformation of sorts, and to have DIY come back. And yeah, it'd be fun. It'd be a nice tag team renaissance almost.
I want to split the difference. I want kind of the best of both worlds. I want Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano to be friendly and aligned, where they're
Hmm.
also like you have some way stuff with Johnny and the family. You have some Tommaso stuff. They're aligned. They'll watch each other's backs. You might get some segments between Tommaso Ciampa and The Way, obviously with Johnny Gargano. But then they also will occasionally tag together, sort of building that DIY thing. So I feel like splitting the difference, I'd probably be the most happy with. But then, yeah, you reminded me of two things. When we talk about The Way or Johnny Gargano, man, I think like the last time they were on something was like a Raw talk or a backstage post show deal, and them and Kathy Kelly, and they walked off, and that was like, geez, like maybe weeks, a month and change ago.
3 weeks ago, I think. Yeah.
That random, super well put together Johnny Gargano promo slash return promo deal maybe last week or 2 weeks ago on Raw, and that was literally the last we heard slash did anything with him. So yeah, I think you're in agreement. Hopefully it's just lack of creative, which is a horrible umbrella term that we use in the industry, but hopefully it's that, and we're just trying to figure out the right situation to have Johnny good character work and strong wrestler. I mean, we got Candice in there, we got Indy, who we just drafted, and we haven't really seen anything from her on Raw. Dexter can do stuff with Indy, kind of being a manager, just have a little random fun spot. So I hopefully would like to see some maybe possible tag slash single stuff, and or just give the Way something to do.
Well, here's the thing. Just kind of throwing it into my head with the list of people. Why don't we have, because we do have people like Indy and Candice, why don't we have The Way feud with the Judgment Day? Like, come on. We have Candice and Indy, two females for Rhea Ripley to feud against. Absolutely fantastic. We have Dexter Lumis, who could scare the bejeebus out of Dom, and he would sell it like nobody's business, getting protected by Damian Priest. Damian Priest, kind of going up against Dexter Lumis would be fantastic. DIY reforming with Tommaso Ciampa. Tommaso Ciampa going against a champion Finn Balor, or Finn Balor with Damian Priest in the tag team. Dexter doesn't play well in teams, so I'm going to go and get a friend. Oh, big surprise. It's Tommy Champs. And then, the stuff writes itself. Like, it would be such a fun faction versus faction that has legs to it. Like, we did something similar with the LWO, but it kind of petered out for a wee bit because not everybody had something to do there. So yeah, it'd be fun. Like, definitely there is something to it, but that's just one sort of little creative push in a generalized direction, and it does kind of hinge on a couple of things. So yeah, I don't know. It's annoying whenever it is lack of creative for some talent, especially when you see some of the segments that do get greenlit.
You just put it in my brain. Candice and Indy versus the women's tag team champs. We can have a match right there. So boom, Bob's your uncle. So definitely some things to consider. Overall, glad Tommaso Ciampa is back once again, healthy, looking in great shape. Hopefully we get some things moving forward. Whether or not we get a teaming of DIY or partnership with Johnny in The Way, let's just have good things for those folks. Let's get some creative. WWE, you may or may not officially, we'll keep it kayfabe, brother. You get some storylines. If someone from your team's listening, you can have that one for free, regardless. But those were our thoughts on Tommaso Ciampa returning, looking great. Glad to see him back, and if there is something to be had with a DIY reunion, let us know down in the comment section below on YouTube, or hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, and let us know if you are indeed happy to see Tommy Champs back and maybe teaming with Johnny. Is that good for you, or do you want to see him on the singles route? Let us know. All right, next up, Logan Paul added to the Money in the Bank ladder match. On Raw, Logan Paul is seated on a ladder in the ring, mic in hand. He berates the local Cleveland crowd, but eventually states he called some executives and got himself a special invitation to the Money in the Bank ladder match. He's going to win and cash it in and take a title from whoever he wants, whenever he wants. Logan, what a heel, brother. Comes in, just shows up. adds himself, or gets added rather, to the Money in the Bank ladder match. No qualifying matches, no nothing. I get that he's kind of a celebrity, but Joker, does that diminish the work, or rather the booking of the other participants in the match? What are you thinking?
Uh, I don't want to say it diminishes the work because, like, the other contestants all put in solid matches, and we had decent booking to qualify Ricochet, Shinsuke, LA Knight, Santos Escobar, Butch, and Big D Priest. So it's one of those that you look at it and you go, oh well, like all these guys getting a shot. Like I was personally having a hard time picking who was going to win until I remembered LA Knight was, just LA Knight, and LA Knight's the guy. So whenever, exactly. Whenever Logan Paul stood on top of that ladder, I audibly groaned and just went, okay, buddy, like you've had a good match. Like I can't deny you're athletic and great, but no, go away. This is not your match. Go and go and fight Seth Rollins again. Now he has a championship. I don't care. You do not just walk in and say, "Oh, I'm rich and famous, and I can do whatever the heck I want because I have a contract and I can just talk to Trips and whoever's in creative and get added to this thing for zero reason and sense." And then you have all of the individuals just kind of come out and give him lip, which 100% I think is the right way to book that segment. Thought it was a fantastic segment overall. Now, before we get into the rest of the segment, I do think he has some good matchups in this. Ricochet versus Logan Paul, we've seen at the Royal Rumble. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Logan Paul, I think would be great. Having that little back and forth. LA Knight, I want to see him just stomp a mud hole in Logan Paul 100%. But LA Knight is a great seller. LA Knight sells so beautifully that I think he'll put Logan Paul over in that match. Santos Escobar, great worker, great high flyer. Matches Ricochet, will match Logan Paul. Butch, I think, is the one that will go after him first because, he just will absolutely run him down. And then D Priest, like, I think eventually that will be a case of, because Logan Paul is super tall as well, Priest versus Paul. These two guys will have a good wee back and forth. So there's not a bad matchup for him there. And each and every one of them are experienced veterans and will make him look good. He already makes himself look good everywhere else. It's time for other people to make him shine even brighter in the ring. That being said, do not give this man the briefcase because it will be the most pointless thing ever. And regardless of what championship he ever takes, he will lose it immediately the next pay-per-view.
I'm conflicted as well because I'm in agreement. Logan just, I'm not a fan of, him. I don't know a ton about him. Just rubs me the wrong way. Just, what is what it is. Just not a fan of the guy. So, but take nothing away from that. Dude's crazy talented. So, and I think him being paired with a number of veterans, the Seth Rollins match at Mania, in the Rumble, you can help protect him. The Roman Reigns match, I think, when Saudi last year or something like that. So, when paired with the right people, absolutely can be shown brighter and accentuate the positives, as the old Paul Heyman adage would say. But yeah, I think total heel, totally, absolutely, just playing up to it. I talked to big people and I got added to the match. There it is. So, but yeah, I don't think, because he's like super part time and he just doesn't kind of show up, or kind of has no expectation to either be at shows or things like that. I get that it's a large show in London at the O2. They want to bring out the names and stuff, make it a little bit bigger than they can. I think it's an okay spot for Logan to be in. Number of veterans, he can do some spots and just kind of do some stuff. So I feel like it works for the purpose that they're trying to go for. In kayfabe, you're not selling to me well. Hey, I'm a kind of a big deal. I talked to some people, they threw me in, so Not to say that it would diminish entirely what the other guys did, but man, it's just like super ultra mega heel heat on him as a character. So
It's what he does well as a character. Like, we're not expecting him to come in and be a good guy. He is, in terms of celebrities, the antithesis to Bad Bunny, where Bad Bunny is, the most celebrated and over celebrity to come into WWE. It doesn't harm the fact that he's the most streamed recording artist on Spotify or in the world or whatever the statistic was. And he's just a multi-million-dollar performing artist. Then you got Logan Paul, who, in the words of LA Knight, makes videos for 14-year-old girls. Yeah, cool. Like, legitimately, what a comparison right here. I really would have preferred if Bad Bunny came down to the ring and said, "Cause Damian Priest's in here, I'm just gonna be like, had myself added to it because I want to beat him again." That would have been even better kayfabe for me.
So you did a little bit of a segue ski. So the other portion of that, very briefly, Ricochet comes out and says he'll make Logan Paul go viral again, like he did in the Royal Rumble. Shinsuke Nakamura also touting he's going to win. Then LA Knight comes out, talks some trash, and I made it a point to get the quote because he goes after Logan Paul and says, "I see a guy, he makes videos for 14-year-old girls and wants to call himself a megastar." The back half portion of that, "I brought you a gift, it's a map. If you follow this, you can find exact directions where you can stick each and every one of those bottles of Prime."
Yep.
And then, of course, Santos Escobar, Butch come out, Mr. Pete Dunne, and they all brawl. But my takeaway from that, ooh boy, of the parade of promos that we had in that segment, LA Knight, the pop he got when he came out and the crowd chanting his name. This guy's over, much to the chagrin of a lot of people in the internet wrestling community. Man, not a lot of people will get a crowd reaction like that. I find him engaging. I kind of dig his work. It's one of those that he's maybe supposed to be heel, but kind of got over and is transitioning to like sort of neutral, almost face esque territory. So can't deny the reaction he got on Raw, man.
No, you really can't. And if you do, you're just gonna, burn money because why would you not promote the people who can get themselves over? You know, the, maybe they want to return to the times of Zack Ryder and Matt Cardona, slash Matt Cardona, whenever he got himself over, and they'll just punish LA Knight and throw him off a stage in a wheelchair with a neck brace. It's just one of those that you look at and you go, WWE doesn't like it when you make it, but LA Knight makes it despite what you do to keep him down. They made him a manager based on his age. He came out in an interview and said that because of there were concerns about his age, they made him a manager. Excuse me? Are you kidding me? The guy who owns the company is super duper old, but he still got a match like at WrestleMania last year. Like, are you kidding me? He botched the heck out of it, but still, that man's like 900 years old. And then you have LA Knight, who is in his 40s. Wow. Bobby Lashley called. DDP called. Plenty of other superstars are also in their 40s. Finn Balor's in his 40s. Who the heck cares? He's entertaining. He can still go. He has a low impact sort of style. He's not one of these guys who is going to be throwing himself off because he's not a spring chicken. He knows he's not going to be doing, 430s, 980s, or whatever the heck they want to do. Santos Escobar, Rey Mysterio, and Ricochet can all do those. And nobody cares. I'm not trying to flip. I'm not trying to flip myself over the top of a ring. LA Knight gets the crowd going so much so that all he does is Britt Baker does this too because she's amazing and she's over too. All she has to do is her little points. But all LA Knight had to do was do his points, and the crowd filled in the gaps for him, and then big, yeah, right at the end. Like, come on, the guy is over. Give him the briefcase. If you don't like it, suck it.
Certainly engaging. Once again, you can't deny that connection or that the charisma he has, and he's going with it. To echo your sentiments, that was those notions that was in an interview with Inside the Ropes. I actually caught that the other day. And yeah, the conjecture of him being quote unquote too old, and that's why he came up from NXT and ended up being sort of that Max Dupree manager role. But yeah, once again, you hit it right on the head. You have Bobby Lashley's in his 40s, Finn's in his 40s. You have, if I'm not mistaken, at time of recording, you have LA Knight, Mr. Eli Drake. You have him either 40, 41, 42. Roman Reigns is like 38. So if by that same logic, you're going to say Roman perhaps is too old, but it's one of those things. He doesn't, like you said, he hasn't had major injuries. He hasn't have super crazy wear and tear on his body outside of training. He hasn't been away for extended periods of time, things of that nature. He doesn't have high risk offense that could potentially injure himself, type of thing. So
He does have the shoes of a champion.
he does indeed have a shoes of the champion, which helps set him apart and make him different from a lot of other folks. So it's one of those where you can say at nauseum that is he too old? Does he not have this? Is it this thing? Is it that thing? Again, circling back that despite all the conjecture, some people are fans of his, some people are detractors, but he does bring something different to the table. He even mentioned in that same article, or excuse me, that interview, that he tries to watch what other guys are doing so it's not like a mimicking, or I'm not doing the same things that other guys are doing, so it helps me stand out. He's got a connection with the crowd. And to echo that last sentiment from your point, him, Mr. LA Knight, that is, holding the briefcase would be intriguing. He would get a lot of crowd reactions, more so when he comes out. And if he's holding the briefcase, you can have him cut promos. You can have him tease. Like, the music hits, he comes out walking up the ramp, power walking. He's like, nah, I don't want to do it tonight, or I don't do it thing. Talking smack about a champion. At the end of the day, he could defend it. I feel like him holding the briefcase, LA Knight again, that would be an intriguing and entertaining segments for the weeks or the months that he holds that briefcase.
Oh, 100%. I think he should hold it for months as well. I feel like there is the old Seth Rollins aspect to his eventual cash in, where Seth could be having, let's say, in 6 to 8 months, a rematch against Finn Balor for this title. When all of a sudden LA Knight's music hits, he comes down the rampway, cashes in on Seth, gets the big win and gets that belt, or whoever has the other belt, who cares. So it's one of those that he has said on socials as well that the greatest cash in you haven't seen yet just hasn't happened. So it's gonna be his. It's gotta be his. As much as, yes, I want to see Damian Priest hold the briefcase. Santos Escobar is growing on me. I really like that. Ricochet definitely deserves his flowers. Butch, Shinsuke as well. I could see any one of these guys holding it except Logan Paul. Keep it away from him. But I think the best sort of situation for everybody involved is LA Knight holding that briefcase and just lording it over everybody.
I'll agree with you. Taking nothing away from all those folks as well. It doesn't make sense for Logan Paul to have it. Again, part time, has no obligation to show up. Wouldn't kind of make sense. He'd be without the threat of a briefcase type of deal for a long period of time. I would love to see and have an opportunity for any one of those folks, but I feel like the more engaging, entertaining piece would be have LA Knight hold the briefcase. So that would logically make sense. And you could have him in a match with Seth. Um, if he eventually, whoever defeats Roman, he can maybe have it if that's the case potentially, or they opened up and reminded us that they can face any men's title to cash it in on that. He can even eat a loss against a world champion and not be crazy affected. He's one of the few, if not the only person who came out of a Bray Wyatt feud and wasn't destroyed and actually came out okay, honestly.
He's the only person who came out of a Bray Wyatt feud better than before, because there was actually, I think, Seth Rollins himself, or maybe it was Roman Reigns, one of the two said, you can't win against Bray Wyatt. You go in and you just come out worse. Maybe it was even Daniel Bryan, but whoever it was, like that, they just said you don't look good coming out of a feud with Bray Wyatt, and he did, and it was a stinker of a match. Like it wasn't great. The sponsored by Mountain Dew Fright Night face paint
Pitch
fiesta,
black. Yeah.
yeah, whatever it was. It was a stinker of a match. I didn't enjoy it. I thought I was going to have a bit of fun. Nobody had fun in that match, PT. But what we got was a couple of weeks without LA Knight. Then he came back and he just brushed it all off, and nothing else happened, and he became the absolute megastar that he is, that he was always meant to be.
100%. Get that dirt off your shoulder, kept on moving, high stepping, and just trudged on. And he was basically not affected at all by those machinations of a Bray Wyatt. So if you transfer that to a Money in the Bank, a little bit extra, even if he eats a loss, I don't feel like he'll be buried or pushed down, either that. He's one of those guys that he is entertaining with or without a title. He's an engaging promo. He gets crowd reactions if he's being super heel, or now he's a little bit kind of face-esque because of crowd reactions. You know, I feel like having a briefcase or maybe having like an IC eventually or a US title can help sort of make him appear bigger than he is as well. So I feel like, it can only help, and him losing is not going to hurt him too much. So I feel like it's a good bet to put the briefcase on Mr. Los Angeles Knight.
Completely agree.
All right, so those were our thoughts on Logan Paul being added to Money in the Bank and who we feel might come away with the briefcase. Let us know down in the comment section below on YouTube, or hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, and let us know who you think is going to come out of Money in the Bank with the briefcase. If you think it's Mr. Logan Paul, if you think it's LA Knight, if you think it's someone else, let us know. All right, and the final topic we're going to cover here for this episode is AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door is this weekend, or is happening today on release day. So we got a lot of matches, a lot of build here. Always kind of a fun time where we can get a little bit of sort of dream matches here with a mixing of talent from the two companies. But Joker, with the show coming up, are you looking forward to a match or two on the pay-per-view, or is there maybe even like a match you're wondering like, how did this even come about? What are you thinking? Is there something you are digging for the show?
So there's a couple of matches that I had to look through the card, what it's become, to see if there was actually anything that I'm looking forward to, and why. Like, if it's going to be good, it's going to be fun, and this, that, and the other. There are some really good matches on there. I love their match at Wrestle Kingdom earlier this year, so I am 100% looking forward to Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay for the IWGP United States title. I'm looking forward to Will Ospreay winning that title back. Kenny has made allusions that if Will does not win, then he is under no obligation to ever go back to Japan. I feel like that is one step too far, Kenny. When you have played your hand, we're going to see Will Ospreay get that title back. At least I would love to see the man wear the IWGP US title again. There are a couple of matches that I'm like, no, I really don't care about this. Sonata versus Jungle Boy, MJF versus Tanahashi. Neither of those have high stakes. The champions are retaining. I don't even care. The just for the pure mystery behind it, because I always do love a good mystery. The Suzuki Gods versus Darby Allin and Sting, and their to be announced friend still hasn't been announced. I'm just kind of a wee bit interested, a little bit of intrigue. Not sure if I'm actually interested in the match, so it's kind of one of those. There's only two matches that I'm like, other than the Kenny Omega Will Ospreay one. There's only two matches that I'm actually looking forward to, and it's Adam Cole versus Filthy Tom Lawler, because I love Tom Lawler. Seeing him at the G1 last year, I absolutely love the man. I think he's fantastic. I think his style is so blooming good, and he is going to make people wince fighting against Adam Cole because he's snug. He is very snug, and that is something that we should be paying attention to. And the four-way for the AEW International Championship: Orange Cassidy, Zack Sabre Jr., Katsuyori Shibata, and Daniel Garcia. That is my potential match of the night because I think all four of these guys are fantastic. Danny Garcia is a wrestler, and Zack Sabre Jr. is a sports entertainer.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with a lot of points you put up there. Obviously, of course, honestly, the Omega Osprey and the Danielson Okada matches are going to be great. 100%. We're going to have just really engaging, fun matches. They're going to be solid. 100%. One of the matches you mentioned, the Suzuki Gods, the six-man, facing off against Sting, Darby, and a mystery opponent. We are recording before Collision, so that's when that person is going to be announced. I'm going to make a bold claim, and Sting and Darby alluded to it's somebody's from Jericho's past. I instantly thought of, who do we think? Jushin Thunder Liger, but he retired last year. So I'm going to make a bold claim and predict that it's Tetsuya Naito, because Jericho and he had that feud over the Intercontinental Championship. So let us know down in the comment section below when this goes live or further on, if you're watching this days after. If indeed, did I predict correctly? Is it Naito teaming up with Sting and Darby? Let us know.
If it's Naito, I will be interested in that match. I love Naito.
But Joker, it's crazy how you and I are on the exact same wavelength, because I said the sleeper hits are going to be exactly what you picked. The four-man for the AEW International Championship: Cassidy, Zack Sabre, Shibata, and Daniel Garcia. Four talented guys going at it. Submissions, technical, hard-hitting, a bit of character work. Four guys that can go in there and just be amazing. That absolutely has potential to be a sleeper match of the night. And I also picked another sleeper hit, is the Adam Cole Tom Lawler clash of styles, smooth work of Cole versus the rough, no nonsense submission style of Lawler. I think it's just going to be absolutely intriguing to watch. And if you're not familiar with Tom Lawler from New Japan Strong or his work in New Japan proper, you're going to be in for a treat. There's not a huge amount of expectations on this match, which is why I think folks can actually potentially get into this and have a lot of positive takeaways from just seeing Tom Lawler be here. So I think it's crazy, like I said, how we joke, how you and I have never been in the same room at the same time for a multitude of reasons, obviously. But you and I, people think we are the same person, but hot diggity, you and I were on the exact same wavelength, the same frequency about these two sleeper matches.
It's just, they have absolute barn burner written all over them. Yes, there are some really big names here. You've got Kazuchika Okada, Bryan Danielson. Like, yeah, I mean, of course that's a big match. That's going to be an absolute slapper. Sonata going to run all over Jungle Boy. No one cares about that match. MJF, he can't lose to the Ace, but the Ace is the Ace, and I'll just love to see him perform. But, whatever. And then you've got the Blackpool Combat Club featuring temporary stand-ins, Konosuke Takeshita and Shota Umino versus the Elite with their two friends, which I complained to you last night about. I'm not going to get into it here. I'm not interested in that match in the slightest. So I'm not going to do anything about this here. And the other matches. Nah. Give me that Orange Cassidy Fatal 4-Way, that Adam Cole, Filthy Tom Lawler. Like, I'm going to be singing along to Tom Lawler's entrance song as he comes down to that ring, dancing away. I am going to be loving it. I love that man, and I think he's going to do big things in this match. And yeah, I love to hear Zack Sabre. I hope they have the gain on those mics turned up. Zack Sabre Jr. is going to be calling people pillocks and pricks and just throwing obscenities around the ring. I can't wait for that man to get caught on mic. because he's just hilarious, and then he's just gonna try and tap somebody out. Yeah, I think it's gonna be one of those two matches. Going to be my match of the night, 100%.
Regarding the 10-man featuring elements of the BCC and the Elite/Hung Bucks, the cliff notes were essentially from our production call before was Joker was a little disappointed about who was teaming with the Elite/Hung Bucks on their side. So he felt like it could have been a little bit better of a choice for the teammates on that side, but at the end of the day, since he was sort of let down with or without expectations, that's essentially why he wasn't as engaged with that match as he could have been looking forward to it. That's really what happened.
Yep. I just don't care that Eddie doesn't like Claudio. And that's the only reason Eddie's in this match. I don't care, Eddie. I love you. I think you're fantastic. But your links to this match are tenuous at best, and Tomohiro Ishii's are even more tenuous than that. So please, whoever wrote this whole script, go back to sleep on it a little bit longer next time, come up with two better reasons to add these people if you want to add them, or two different people. As it stands, that match had everything going for it, and now, not bloomin' interested.
Yeah, it's one of those where the Blackpool side, like they have ties with Konosuke in sort of that pseudo Don Callis / pseudo beatdown of the Elite element, and of course with Shota being a John Moxley-esque young boy, that teaming makes sense and kind of feels like, okay, sort of almost understudy / unofficial members. But yeah, it's one of those where, like you had mentioned, the Hung Bucks of Hangman and the Young Bucks, Eddie's in there because, like you mentioned, that super long-standing 10+ year rivalry with Claudio, and then the almost sort of afterthought or unofficial kind of like Tomohiro Ishii type of thing. I even, like I mentioned, like I could find out or I can make it make sense because the Blackpool teaming, it was John and Claudio teaming with Shota to face the never open weight of Okada, Tanahashi, and Ishii. He's like, all right, I can kind of make it sense in my brain, but like you said, it's almost like, all right, would you have wanted maybe somebody else? Of course. You and I can come up with a litany of like possible people that could have been, but kind of makes sense, but this is what we got, and it could have been anyone else, sure, but we are getting the sort of almost kind of hodgepodge team facing a almost, it feels okay with the Blackpool side.
I know he probably won't, but I actually kind of want Red Shoes to ref this match as well, because he will have a better link to ref that match than Eddie and Tomohiro have to being in that match. So I really kind of want Red Shoes to ref the thing, even though I know he won't be. But yeah, less said about it, the better, because people are obviously going to hate me for having that selection. Everybody loves Eddie Kingston, and don't forget, I love Eddie Kingston. It's just his links to this match, for me, personally, do not fit. The Stone Pitbull, he's Murder Grandpa number 2. Like, you cannot go against Murder Grandpa number 2. But it's one of those that, again, I still don't care for his link to this match. So it's just those reasons, and those reasons alone for those two individuals. I'm sure there'll still be a good match, and Takeshita and Umino will get plenty of offense in.
Of course, Joker alluding to Red Shoes' connection to Shota Umino, who's in that match. But yeah, like I said, I like a lot of those folks in that particular match. A lot of just hard-hitting dudes. I'm a huge Eddie Kingston fan. You must say I'm a kind of a mark for him. He might even be in my boy stable. If you know the reference, you know the reference. But yeah, I think regardless, this is going to just be a fun, crazy, just awesome pay-per-view. It's always fun when you get different matchups and you kind of get the little bit of variety. That notion of, I can't remember from last year, it may have happened if we had a New Japan ref for a match or two. Maybe it was in that last year's 4-way for the IWGP. Can't remember, but it would be cool to see if we have a New Japan ref for a match or two, because I do recall we had the English and Japanese ring announcing last year, which was actually a really cool element. So bring something different to the table. There are certainly matches that you and I, like we both agreed, are absolutely looking forward to. maybe a few that we may not have the enthusiasm for. You got championship matches, you got four ways, 6-man trios, you got a 10-man, you got a lot of variety, and we're also having at least one Owen Hart tournament matchup there. If I'm not mistaken, that'll be Athena and Billy.
2.
Okay.
Because the other one is the CM Punk and Satoshi Kojima.
Got you.
For the men.
There we go. The CM Punk, Kojima, and the Billy Starks and Athena match. So yeah, we're integrating that, of course. And so we got a lot of variety. At the end of the day, it's just going to be a fun show. If you're into sort of AEW or New Japan, even if you don't even know a lot about New Japan or AEW, I feel like if you just watch it for the matches, you're going to be pleasantly surprised regardless. So I think there's a lot of fun to be had and engagement if you're a hardcore fan or if you're a casual fan. A casual fan. There'll be a lot to enjoy from it.
Oh yeah, 100%. With the matches that we've picked as our banger matches, like you're gonna get so much of the Tom Lawler, so much of the Zack Sabre Jr. and Kazuya Shibata. I feel like, to your earlier point as well, we probably should have NJPW refs for the IWGP title matches. So for the US title and for the World Heavyweight title, maybe definitely, just because those will be played under the 20-second countouts, etc., 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 etc. So it's one of those that I would like to see actual NJPW refs for those, but I understand if they don't want. It's fine. It's whatever. But yeah, this definitely has some matches that are on the card that I'm looking forward to. Some that I will side eye, and some that I will probably just kind of go and find out the cliff notes for. Because, yeah.
It's all good in the hood, man. Lots of folks are definitely for those marquee matchups, like we mentioned, Omega Ospreay and Danielson Okada. Those are the ones you hugely advertise to get you in the door. And we also have, like we mentioned, a potential for some sleeper hits. So those were our thoughts on Forbidden Door upcoming and matches that we were looking forward to. Let us know down in the comments section below on YouTube, or hit us up on Twitter, Instagram. Let us know if there's a match that you were most looking forward to from AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door. All right. A little bit of an old school episode covering a bunch of topics, a little bit of a shorter ones, not hugely long discussions over, but we did cover quite a bit from both WWE as well as sort of AEW and in this instance, New Japan. So lots of things moving towards hot feuds. AEW and New Japan Forbidden Door upcoming as well. So lots of things happening, building towards stories, and man, I just think lots of things simmering, and once they do end up happening, I think they're going to be intriguing to see the results.
Yeah, definitely. The stuff that can come out of this for some individuals is going to be fun. Obviously, because it is Forbidden Door and we're sort of mixing the two companies, there isn't any long-term sort of work going to come out of this. But for people like Adam Cole, who will immediately see the benefits for AEW, Danny Garcia and Orange Cassidy will 100% see the benefits. Jungle Boy, depending on how he does in his match against Sonata, will see a boost. I think, hopefully we will see a little bit of a boost for him. And Bryan Danielson, how can his stock go anywhere but up in his match against Okada? It is really going to be one of those absolutely amazing matches. It's not to say anything less about the other people in the matches, but those are just some of the ones that are stand out for me. That'll definitely get a nice rub out of this. Hopefully, future-proof pay-per-view. I can't wait for Forbidden Door 3 next year. And hopefully by that time we'll have maybe Jay White versus Okada, which would be fun for the AEW title. Because obviously we would have that would be a rematch from earlier on in the year where we had Jay White versus Okada. So
At Wrestle Kingdom for sure, yeah.
at Wrestle Kingdom, yeah, for the IWGP World Heavyweight title. So yeah, it's one of those that it'd be fun to see those kinds of interactions as well. Former NJPW wrestlers who now work for AEW going up against NJPW wrestlers.
That's a really good point. I think these upcoming matches for a lot of folks in both companies, you'll see positives from the Bryan Danielson, like you mentioned. Jungle Boy getting a world title shot. I think just getting that Rubsky will look really good for him. Strong matches in that 4-way for the international title. Like you said, Adam Cole just having just a probably a solid match with Tom Lawler. LA Knight just being awesome and potentially getting that Rubsky from the briefcase. Finn and Seth, just whoever wins and whoever loses, it's not going to diminish their stock either. So you have a lot of just really strong matchups upcoming and guys probably being set up to be put in a good situation after the fact when those happen in the upcoming months. So all in all, we got a pay-per-view upcoming real quick. And then next week we got a pay-per-view, so it's one of those where, hey, we're eating good for a couple weeks, and I'm not mad at it for sure.
The quality from either pay-per-view is going to be so good.
Absolutely. So we're gonna wind down on out of here. Thank you so much for listening and or watching. Stay cool in this heat. So for TF Joker,
Whatever.
you gotta love it. And for Pretty Tony, we thank you so much for your time and letting us be a part of your day. And remember, be good to yourself, be good to each other, and we will catch you next time. Peace.